Shall we begin?
Shall we?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Failing Writers Podcast, brought to you in association with Barry's Mobile B-Day Service. Ever out on the town and desperately need a freshening up in the back door department? Just give him a call, and he'll be there quicker than you can say, "Hey, hold on, Barry. Isn't that just a Karcher pressure washer?"
Well, you may very well say that, Tom, but I'm not entirely sure that that's the best way to go about things, because in my experience... Oh! Hello, everybody. Didn't see you creeping up on us there. We were just having an entertaining and jovial conversation about this week's episode.
A little tete-a-tete, a little appetizer to wet the palate. And then you turned up.
Yeah, but I suppose we better get serious now, hadn't we? Because
that's definitely what people tune in for, Dave. Serious chat.
Yeah, exactly. We need to get serious about comedy. Is what we're doing today.
All right. Quieten down, everybody. Out with the old pens and the textbooks. Today, we're going to be looking at comedy.
It should be a laugh.
Pardon, Baird?
Sir?
It sounded like you just made one of your smart comments.
He did, sir. He did. He said, "Ooh, this should be a laugh." That's what he said, sir.
Well, I was just saying that it should be a laugh. You know, because it's comedy, isn't it?
Oh, so you think comedy's funny, do you?
Well,
He does, sir. He does. Dave thinks comedy's funny, sir. He does.
Well, if there's something so innately chortle-worthy about the subject of comedy, I think we'd all like to hear it, wouldn't we?
I bet he's got nothing funny to say, sir. Doesn't usually.
Come on, Baird. Let's hear it. No?
Oh.
Anyone else here under the impression that comedy is a laughing matter? Turner, you're sat there with quite the grin on your face. Presumably you think comedy is just the height of hilarity.
Oh, no, definitely not. No, sir. No, God, no. Comedy? Not funny at all, is it? No.
Good.
No.
Well, let's continue with the lesson then, shall we? So, comedy is a
Actually, sir,
Rand.
I would argue that comedy is funny because it makes you laugh.
Excuse me?
Comedy, makes you laugh, doesn't it?
Oh, thank you for that, Rand. How insightful. Class, I think we can all pack up our books and go home for the day. Comedy is funny because it makes you laugh.
That's right, because it breaks the tension.
The tension, you say?
Yeah, because usually with comedy, the tension sort of builds, doesn't it?
Oh, it builds, does it? Does it indeed?
That's right, sir. There's like a tension between the characters. Perhaps one of them isn't really fully aware of it.
Right. Perhaps not aware that the other character is standing behind them holding a length of wooden rule, for example.
Exactly, sir. And so you have this situation where the dramatic tension is building and building, just waiting to be resolved.
Yes, like with a firm and particularly violent smack round the head with a large stick, maybe.
That's right, sir, you see, you're getting it now, because in a way, many have argued that's the whole point of comedy.
Is that right?
Yeah, because if you go back to the classical conception of comedy, Aristotle held that its very purpose is that by using the pleasant feelings aroused by laughing, it allows you to hold a mirror up to society to reflect its follies and vices. Think of the French philosopher Henri Bergson, who believed that laughter can bring the audience back into conformity, whose logic and conventions he abandons when, and I quote, he slackens in the attention that is due to life.
Oh, God, Rand, only you could drain every drop of humour from what started out as a perfectly adequate sketch about comedy.
Yeah, sorry, sir, I do have a habit of doing that.
That reminds me of the old Bob Monkhouse joke. That when he was young, he told his mum and dad that he was going to be a comedian, and they laughed at him. Well, they're not laughing now.
Oh, good old Bob.
He had loads of jokes, didn't he? Do you remember when he got his joke book stolen?
Yes, it was really sad, wasn't it? He did
he
get
got
a
them back at
reward
some point.
to
But
get
he
it
just
back.
used to write. He just was like an absolute machine, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was a whole show that I saw recently about a load of Les Dawson's notebooks that had been found.
Right.
All these sort of sketch ideas that he'd written down and sort of never got round to doing. And like Benny Hill, there's like a library somewhere of just notebooks of Benny Hill. He used to
Benny Hill?
Yeah.
Really?
I think he used to sit. I think he had
Wasn't it like the same thing, just written over and over again?
It was just written down, but in different ways. But no, apparently he used to have like 3 or 4 TVs in his living room, and he'd just sit and watch TV and make notes about stuff for his own show.
Do you guys have notebooks?
I've got lots of. But the thing is, my handwriting is absolutely terrible, so I tend to do what Jeremy Dyson was talking about and type stuff up. But then the problem with that is that I save it somewhere and I never look at it. So I've got like notes somewhere of stuff that I've written down, but I can't find it.
Also, autocorrect can get in the way of that as well. So when you read back your notes,
it makes absolutely no ducking sense whatsoever.
It doesn't actually make any sense.
Yeah.
I tend to just use my phone. I'm a modern fella, and I just use my phone while I'm on the move.
Do you talk into it?
No, because that would make
I've
me look
started
like a
doing
twat.
that.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
No, I've started doing that because actually, Tom, you can make it.
Dave just at the Bakers or something. Idea for a sitcom. Don't mind me.
Set in Bakers.
You can actually make it look like you're just talking to someone on the phone. If you suddenly have an idea, and if someone walks past, you can just not slip into, oh yeah, I'll see you Friday, and then back to the idea. But yeah, I do find that's a handy way to keep notes, little voice memo.
Yeah, they still end up being that weird disjointed thing sometimes, where when you wrote them, they made perfect sense, but when you go back to them, you think this is just kind of like disjointed nonsense. What does that mean?
Like some garbled dream.
You think, I'll just write this one sentence because that sums up my whole thought, and I'll be able to pick up on it straight away.
No, it needs context.
Novel idea. Man has a leg made out of pastrami. How's that? What was the bigger idea there?
Do you think though that your really good ideas you come back to and go, oh, that is good actually, and you remember it.
Are you guys having good ideas? Sorry, right? Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, that makes sense now actually. Yeah,
it's true. There are still a couple of ideas that float around for years and years, and I think one day I must do something with that. And I still think that one day I must get around to doing something with one of them.
But eventually they become like rare exotic butterflies, don't they? Flying around in your imagination, and it feels cruel to capture them, kill them.
It's such a sad way of looking.
Do
at
nothing.
Pin
with
them to a bit of styrofoam.
Yeah, you need to write the Time Waits for Norman.
Yeah, you do, Dave, because that's a great title.
There's something in that, isn't there?
There really is something in that, isn't it? Yeah,
it could be a very very nice simple idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so have you speaking of notes, have we made any notes to help us with this evening's episode for our little chat about comedies and sitcoms and our favourites?
Are we talking about sitcoms or comedy dramas?
Well, see,
Where
now
does the line? This is interesting, actually. When I was thinking about this and writing my notes for this episode, that is a blurry line now, isn't it?
It really, really is. And I think I've got something to say about that, actually, Tom.
Well, bloody hell, Dave. Let's start with that then.
Well, you see, the thing is, right, it's just something that's been bugging me all week. In our interview with Emma Kennedy last week, she said, and I quote, "Sitcoms have to have one hero who has a fatal flaw who never learns."
Yes.
And it was the one hero thing that sort of, at the time, that sort of moved us away from sitcom. But actually, the more I thought about it, I thought, that's not really true. Because I was searching for, because we were going to talk about our favourite sitcoms. So I did a little search online of best
Dave,
sitcoms.
did you put into Google Dave's favourite sitcom?
I did, Dave's favourite sitcoms, and it was quite accurate. But no, it's sort of, I found this list of top sitcoms in the UK in the last 20 years or whatever it was, right? And out of that list, I wrote down Benidorm, Are You Being Served?, The Royal Family, Friday Night Dinner, The IT Crowd, Peep Show, The Inbetweeners, Gavin and Stacey,
right?
And, of course, possibly the most popular sitcom of all time ever, Friends. And I would say that none of those are about a single person. None of those are about one hero. Friends isn't about Joey or about Chandler or about Monica, is it? It's about all of them. Yeah, Fawlty Towers is about Basil Fawlty, and Blackadder's about Blackadder and Father Ted and all that. But I don't think it's true.
Maybe it's a British sitcom thing. Is it a British sitcom thing?
No, I don't think it's true that a sitcom has to have one
when you think back to
hero.
the old classics that I grew up on and loved, like Sorry and Terry and June.
There we go.
Sorry. Was Sorry good?
Oh, Sorry was brilliant.
Was it?
Just because of the Ronnie Hazelhurst theme tune. You don't need anything more than that, do you? What a theme tune. Oh, magic.
I hated that show.
Language, Timothy.
You don't get theme tunes like
Every
that
time.
anymore.
Funny.
Still
Funny,
funny. Still funny.
Yeah.
So I just no, some things just don't hold up, do they? But yeah, no, I genuinely think that it doesn't have to be one person.
I wonder if that was true and it's less true now.
Maybe.
But hang on, I've got a little curveball for you because I would argue that Gavin and Stacey is actually about Gavin. And I would argue that Friends is always about one particular character for a time period, whether it's like a season or whether it's like 4 episodes.
So you're saying that Dad's Army was about Captain Mannering?
Possibly.
I think you're probably right if you are.
Possibly. Yeah. I think if you look really closely at each sitcom, you're definitely encouraged. Normally, I think there are actually exceptions, but I think most you're kind of encouraged to follow somebody.
Peep Show.
Well, if you take Peep Show, though,
wasn't
that is
about
about
one
two
of them.
people.
Yeah.
No, but it's about their singular situation.
But
isn't
it can only be about
Maybe
one
their-
at a time.
Their situation
but it's not
is
just about one person.
No, but
is
maybe
it?
it's yeah.
I mean, the Royal Family, I don't think is just about Jim.
That's not a sitcom, though, is it, Dave?
Well, of course it is.
It's not a sitcom.
Yes, it is.
That's a comedy
Well,
drama.
again, this is where we get back to.
There's
No, but that really isn't a sitcom, is it?
Yeah.
That wasn't boom, 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 gag, gag, gag.
Yeah, but is that the definition of a sitcom? If you looked up sitcom in a dictionary, would it say boom, 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 gag, gag, gag?
I do. I'm going
I'm
to have a
sure.
little check.
I'm not sure it does. I think it has
No, it doesn't.
changed.
Yeah.
Like every generation, it's
No, but it
it's
needs-
changed, doesn't it?
Well, all right, yeah, it's difficult. So, what about something like Red Dwarf? Is that just about Lister?
No, but it's
Not though, is it? And that is a sitcom. Even though that's a story-based sitcom. That is a comedy drama.
Yeah.
But that is boom, 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 gag, gag, gag.
It is.
Oh, this is confusing.
It is very confusing, isn't it? But I just ultimately, I don't think what I'm trying to say here is that I don't
Emma's
think we
wrong.
need Emma's
Massively
wrong.
talented, experienced.
A, she's wrong,
Yeah.
and B, I don't think we, in terms of what we're doing, I don't think we need to worry about pigeonholing it into sitcom or comedy drama. I don't think we need to put that framework on it at this point. I think it's
Yeah.
just try to come up with the best idea that we can
No, I
do.
completely agree.
I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
we write what we want to
Yes.
write. Yeah. And it probably will end up being a comedy drama just because
Unless we invent a whole
that's
new
the
genre.
sort of shape that we kind of got used to.
The
I think.
sitcomedy.
Sitcomedramedy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. We do what comes out and what feels best and funniest and most moving or whatever, and that's what we've
Yeah.
done.
Because you got to appreciate that a lot of what Emma was saying last week was about, well, if you really want to get something commissioned, then you should do this or that or the other. I don't think we really, let's be honest, I don't think we really need to worry about whether it's going to get commissioned or
The
not.
thing about
does
that
it?
is there are two kind of paths that you can take, isn't there? Of being very pragmatic about it
Yep.
and
Yeah.
commercially minded
Mhm.
from the outset, or kind of the arty-farty failing kind of way. I think might be the road
Yeah.
we end up taking of just doing what your heart
Yeah.
desires. And every now and again, something that someone writes like that becomes the next big thing, and everyone goes, "Oh, why isn't everyone doing that? Well, that's what we want."
So this is another thing that I was going to say, because years ago when I first sort of went freelance and I was spending loads of time going to different seminars and things and BBC workshop sessions, and they would always say, don't try and write what you think we're looking for or what sort of some commissioners say that we're looking for.
And I can imagine Dave at the back of the class going, "Right, could you tell us what that is, just to make sure that I definitely don't write that? But what is it that you're exactly looking for? Just so I don't write that."
But they were saying, basically, they said that because it constantly changes. By the time you've sort of written something and got it to like a pitch
But it can
stage,
only change because people are presenting new stuff that is different.
exactly. So people.
But then they go, "Well, we quite like something like The Office. That was good. The Office did well. Let's
That's
get to-"
exactly it. Yeah. So The Office comes out, and then they start looking for other stuff like The Office, and then people write stuff that's like The Office, and then they go, "Oh, and do you know what?
It's a bit like
We've
The
got
Office.
too
That's
many
too
of them
much like
now."
The Office,
and
that,
then, like
yeah.
you say, something totally brand new and different comes along, and that's the point, isn't it? That what was great about The Office is not that it was like The Office; it's that it was new and different. That's what made it
it
stand
had a different
out.
flavour to it,
Yeah.
didn't it? It's kind of that sort of vibe. It had a different feel to
Yeah.
it.
So that's what they're looking for, isn't it? Something that just
Yeah.
has a fresh way of doing it that captures the zeitgeist, but you can't ever predict what that's going to be. So we should just do something we like.
And to be fair, we've had that advice from several people, haven't we?
Follow your heart, kind of do right your passion.
Yeah. Just got to write what you
I'm not
like,
suggesting I'm in any way coming up with something new or different right now in saying that we should come up with something new or different.
But I think you're absolutely
Dave,
right.
don't forget that something can be new and different and shit.
That's true. That is very true.
Can I just clarify? That's not what we're aiming for, though.
No. Not aim for that.
We're not aiming for that.
But,
Absolutely not aiming for that.
yeah.
You're listening to the award-winning Failing Writers podcast. Hold on. This is a 25-metre swimming certificate? You can't call that an award. And how does a podcast swim anyway? Everyone knows podcasts aren't waterproof.
What are your favourite comedies?
Whatever.
Yeah, let's talk about what we really like, because I can't help thinking that's going to inform what kind of thing we want.
It's really
to write.
hard, this. It's really hard. I don't know if I can tie down.
But you must have like top 5, top 10, just things that you loved or loved at the time.
Well, I don't know. It was so different, and it changes. Like, I couldn't really think of it in that way. Here's a different question for you. What is the
sod
first?
your question, John.
Sod
Let's move
your
on to
question.
Dave's question.
Is this
Your
that
question's
question's really, really hard.
Bloody rubbish.
That's a really sort of subjective.
Oh, have you got an
question,
easier
isn't it?
question?
I've got
Dave?
an
Actually,
easier,
that's sarcasm.
more
Let's
objective
actually move
question.
on to Dave's question.
What's the first sitcom that you remember
Ooh,
liking?
I think that's harder for me.
Because it involves memory.
Yeah, exactly. Tom.
I think Fawlty Towers was probably mine.
Yeah.
What are your memories of watching it, Tom?
Do you know what Fawlty Towers gives you? That mix of ridiculous story, but it's always got one foot on the side of this could actually happen. Like, it's not totally surreal and stupid, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's believably
It's a
ridiculous.
proper English farce, isn't it? It's almost like a sort of Oscar Wilde.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And then on top of that, you've got the classic lines and these kind of. I think what it did well, it had those lovely sort of build-up jokes where the tension and the anything that was happening would build up and up and up to the point of kind of an outburst and it would always be a perfectly manicured line of, yes, you did, you invaded Poland. Do you mean, like, everything just. So I remember that from it, really.
Yeah, it's got that classic thing as well about it all starts with like one little mistake, one little thing that goes wrong, and then in trying to fix that mistake,
Basil Fawlty's flaws means that easy mistake can't get
makes
fixed.
it worse. And
he's made it worse.
Yeah, and everything that he does to try and fix it makes it worse and worse and worse. And
at no point does he think that it's his fault. That's that's part of his flaw, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the world against him. He's a victim of circumstance every single time.
Yep, and it builds up to looking for a duck in a blancmange.
Yeah,
which is
perfectly which has got to the point of being a reasonable situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first one that sticks with me.
What about you, John?
I think do you know? I think
you can't say Fawlty Towers, by the way. If that's what you're thinking.
You can have that. Although I did love it, but The Good Life.
Oh,
I still end up watching that.
City
If it's
Kendall.
on, it's one of those things that I'll just end up watching, and that isn't like none of it's hilarious at all. But it's one of those things where you absolutely love the
See, there was a lot
characters.
of lovely, gentle sitcomming around that time, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Terry and June's another one.
I was totally in love with Felicity Kendall as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
Felicity Kendall.
But
she never really wanted to live the good life. That's the great thing about Felicity Kendall. She did it because she loved Tom so much.
Yeah.
She just sort of went with it. Oh,
And it was, do you know
What
what's
a
going to
woman.
be in common with all these British sitcoms that we mentioned as well?
What's that?
They take a lot of their, we could probably learn something from this for ours, actually. They take an awful, awful lot of the conflict from class.
Yeah.
It's very much based around class structure and the
Well, definitely. The Good
colliding.
Life. Yeah, that's.
The colliding of class.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's
was obviously a massively one, isn't it? But Fawlty Towers was the same. There was a lot of class based.
yeah. But also, like, Fawlty Towers has that classic thing about a character who's, like, trapped in a situation they don't want to be in. But I was literally just then thought, like, who's The Good Life about? And actually, Felicity Kendall was the one who was trapped in a situation she didn't want to be in. Look at it like that. Because Tom was doing exactly what he wanted to do. But it was Barbara who ended up in
It was
this sort
that
of
one foot
strange
in each
life.
camp, wasn't she? Yeah, kind of always been pushed and pulled one way and the other.
And I was thinking about comedies seem to divide up into stories where we're either mostly laughing at the characters or we're laughing with the characters. Do you know what I mean? It's like The Good Life. We're definitely laughing with the characters most of the time. And of course, they do stupid things and you kind of laugh at them a little bit. But effectively, they're so affectionate that you're laughing with them. And then there's a whole kind of load of comedies where you're definitely laughing at the characters. Do you know what I mean? Like The Office.
Yeah.
You're not as...
You're not on side with very many of them.
Yeah, that's right.
You're quite happy to see them fail.
It's that's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about it, like people in The Office very rarely laughed. Whereas in The Good Life, you would often have the characters laughing at each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, they'd be making jokes at each other's expense and you'd be laughing along with them. Whereas at The Office, like you said, you're laughing at these people, but nobody there is.
But then they still had the linchpin of Tim in The Office, didn't he? He was the normal.
You kind of side with.
Yeah.
He was the one that you were meant to see through his eyes.
Yeah.
And go and look at each other and tut and go, God, you're stuck with these.
Yeah.
idiots."
But it needed. He was there. Yeah, exactly. He needed to be there for like the reaction. Yeah.
He was the connection to the outside world.
Much underrated comedy as well. Nathan Barley.
Oh yeah, God, I forgot about
That's
that.
another one where you're laughing at the characters, even the main character, Dan.
Yeah. But
Main
so much
character.
of that has sort of come to fruition, come to being. Like all these things that we were laughing at with Nathan Barley actually sort of happened.
Yeah,
People
totally.
Yeah.
Genuinely say things
Yeah.
like, "That's well Mexico." No.
I tell you what, when you were just talking about the old
Yeah.
ones, I'd completely forgotten in my research and thinking about Reggie Perrin.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my formative
Well, that was
ones.
David Nobbs, wasn't it? Reggie Perrin.
Yeah, of course.
That I used to watch. I used to love watching that with my dad. Amazing. Yeah, and that was just the story as much as anything. That was where the humour came
Yeah.
from.
Does that count as a sitcom? Is that really a sitcom?
Well, probably a comedy.
Because that was like.
You call that a comedy drama now. It probably was
I
called a
suppose you
sitcom
would do
at the
now,
time.
wouldn't you? Yeah.
But it wasn't laden with jokes like gags.
Yeah.
It wasn't gags. It was situational humour from the
There are
character.
a lot of gags though,
if you see
as
them.
well.
Yeah, but they weren't.
I would argue.
They weren't gags though. They would.
They do
like-
come relatively thick and fast.
You know, in something like Friends, where you can see the gags outside of the characters. Almost any of the characters could have said it, and it's still funny. It's a joke. There's a setup and a payoff. These were expressions of the inner character that happened to be funny because the character was funny. If you see
But it was a
what I mean.
good mix because it was. There was a lot of visual humour as well,
Yes.
wasn't there? There was farting chairs and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get where I was today by sitting on farting chairs.
Well, talking about sort of old shows and class, like I was thinking about this. Like my first sitcom that I remember, and I wasn't really watching it. It was listening to it. Was Steptoe and Son.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know if I mentioned before. My mum and dad never had much of a record collection. They weren't really into music, but they did have like these sort of 7-inch records of some Hancock's. Tony Hancock and Kenneth Williams sketches, that sort of stuff. And there was a recording of, I think it must have been the Silver Jubilee Royal Variety performance of Steptoe and Son. And my brother and I we just memorised it and would spend, we still do it now sometimes, just, do the script between us. And it's brilliant. It's a perfect sort of sitcom setup of this person who is utterly trapped, trapped by his dad in this place that he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
But the son, really, really sees himself or wants to be of a higher class, but is constantly being dragged back by his dad. And just all these hopes and dreams that he has, but he just can't escape because he's got to stay there and look after his dad. Some of that highlights the difference between sort of sitcom and comedy drama. So there's some brilliant stuff in it because it was all about budgets back in the day. Everything had to be shot in one place because that's all they could afford.
Yeah.
That's kind of why you had to do a sitcom. And I remember this one episode with Steptoe and Son where it was about ballroom dancing. So Harold wants to woo this girl.
Dirty old man.
Yeah, by learning to be a dancer. but he doesn't know how to do it. And then Albert reveals, oh, I used to be a ballroom dancer. Yeah, me and your mum used to do ballroom dancing back in the day. Oh, I'll teach you. He's like, oh. So the whole episode is like him teaching his son how to do ballroom dancing and all that. And it's like the big build up to the day. And then you see like Harold's there in his nice suit and his dicky bow. And then he goes out. And then a little while later, he comes back in absolutely fuming. And his dad's like, well, what happened? He's like, oh, yeah, you taught me all right. You taught me all the wrong steps. You taught me all the woman's steps. So we started in the middle of the dance floor, the band started up, and we both set off walking backwards and ended up at different sides of the room. And it just made me think, like, that's so much funnier sort of being described than if you actually saw it.
Yeah.
Like, in a comedy drama, if that actually happened, it probably wouldn't be that funny, but sort of people talking about it, because that's the sort of budget constraints, makes it funnier.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I don't know, maybe that's something we need to look at when it comes to that sort of sitcom versus comedy drama thing.
What happens off stage?
Yeah.
Let's just have everything happening off stage.
Well, I think that's generally
budget.
speaking, that's what sort of happens with sitcom, isn't it? Like it's people are in one room talking about stuff that's happened in other places, rather than actually seeing what they do.
Yeah, the royal family was exactly that, wasn't it? It was just literally people talking in one room.
Yeah.
Do you know what Katie and I watched the other day? Have you seen any of Still Open All Hours with David Jason?
Yeah.
Taking on the role of...
Oh, I think I saw one.
I just found it utterly fascinating.
In an uncomfortable way.
No, just the fact that it was made,
I found it quite painful.
I think is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah.
It's basically a series of really well constructed but not very funny innuendos. But it's such a sort of old idea. I mean, presumably it worked really well back in the day, and this, probably still has an audience. But it's amazing. It is just just a man in a shop.
Very popular, but then there wasn't much else on.
That's right. There's no competition. I think there was a lot of TV like that when we were kids.
Yeah,
wasn't there?
I mean, I was never.
Do you know what I mean? It's like Blue Peter. You didn't have to do much to keep the kids entertained, did you?
Yeah, because there was only like 3 channels.
With the original Open All Hours, though, you did have Ronnie Barker.
Well, yeah.
And
exactly, very watchable. But it was written by...
as good or as bad as a script can be, if you put Ronnie Barker on it, you've got an extra 20% on it. I mean, do you mean like there's a...
No, but David Jason, I mean, come on.
Oh, no, yeah.
But yeah, it just does not work.
No.
It's awful.
I think it was written by the guy, I can't remember his name now, the guy who wrote Last of the Summer Wine.
Roy Clark.
I think he wrote Open All Hours.
Yeah, I think he did,
And it's pretty, I mean, it's to be honest, Ronnie Barker put the stutter in. And if you try to imagine Open All Hours without the stutter, all those lines where he just says Granville, nothing. But just because Ronnie Barker came in and went, Granville, suddenly...
The audience has gone mad.
Yeah.
This is the Failing Writers Podcast. This is still the Failing Writers Podcast. And yep, this is also still the Failing Writers Podcast.
How different are American sitcoms to British sitcoms? Are they different, or are they basically the same thing?
I think they're pretty different. I will put my hands up and say I've never been a massive fan of American sitcoms. I just find them I find them too formulaic.
Too slick?
Yeah. I think too writer's roomy.
They are a bit louder, aren't they? They're a bit more, you can tell everything's been overly refined and beaten around. It always comes out a little bit bruised.
Here's a joke. And they've all been sort of workshopped. Like Friends, I never got on with Friends at all. And I know it was massive, obviously, but I just never really got it because I
think it was massive because it was so easily consumable, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's never going to be a good recipe for anything that's particularly
You see, I quite like
deep
Friends,
or long-lasting.
I quite like Friends, but it was probably the time that I watched it. Probably watched it when I got back from the pub. What I think they do really well, American sitcoms, is that they create adorable characters a lot of the time. They're very good at characters that you would literally die for.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Modern Family is a really great sitcom. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think, is brilliant. Like, the characters in Brooklyn Nine-Nine are just all so likeable.
Do you know what my issue with Brooklyn Nine-Nine is? And I've watched it all and enjoyed it all, so that's not to say I don't think it's good, is it didn't feel, and I know the characters changed where they were in life a little bit, but it felt like you were just watching the same thing over and over again towards the end.
But that may be like a 8-series thing, do you know what I mean, or how it made series.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it was good, but felt like there wasn't any real. It was just kind of like working the same thing, and it was fine because that was good, but I didn't feel like there was any extra. That, sometimes you get that extra thing where there's development and you really kind of see where they're going.
Do you think that's a real American thing, isn't it? That's like, we're onto a good thing. We are going to make 20 series of this.
Yeah.
And I think most things burn out after 5 or 6.
Yeah, but also their series are longer.
Yeah, their series are a lot longer, Dave.
Yeah. So you can have like a lot of American sitcoms. There will be more episodes in a single series than an entire run of a British sitcom. Like, there's only 13 episodes of Fawlty Towers, which is half a series of Seinfeld, I think. So you're gonna get that kind of thing.
You're gonna get a bit of repetition.
But then there's the stuff that's slightly more off the beaten track. It's like I had Arrested Development down as one of my.
I've never seen.
Yeah, the first
brilliant.
like 3 series or something.
And it's really
funny.
Yeah, it's crazy, the story and where they let the story go and stuff. It's wonderful. And it's still got all the touch points of kind of almost catchphrases and gags dependent on character and repeating jokes on certain characters that you kind of love, but at the same time pushing the story along and having a certain ridiculousness to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with it, isn't it? It's because it's got that sort of thread through it where it's trying to.
And it does. If you skip from series 1 to series 3 or whatever, barely recognise some of the characters and what they're doing and why they're there. It really has. Whereas with Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a great example where you could go from series 1 to series 6. Not a lot's changed really.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the rest.
I think that's the other thing as well, isn't it? About sort of the change in sitcoms and comedy dramas is that old stuff, it would be on for a 6-week run, and you'd watch each episode, and then that'd be it for the year, and then it would be repeated again a few years later in the same order. Whereas now, like, people consume stuff as box sets, so people will sit down and watch a series back to back. So if every episode was the same,
it becomes quite obvious quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's true. And I think obviously times change and what you expect, your expectations change. And I think I've just kind of criticised Brooklyn Nine-Nine there for the lack of sort of character development. But at no point did I do that about Terry and June when we mentioned earlier, which just remained literally exactly the same through the entire. Do you mean there's a different expectation, isn't there? I think with how stuff has come in and how comedy drama has merged into sitcom world, and you expect some kind of again looking at things like the Royal Family, that was a very simple premise. Yeah, like you said, it was almost put these 5 people in one room.
But what's the log line? Do you think for the Royal Family? Like, how would you describe that?
That's actually quite tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's tricky coming up with an accurate log line and then selling it to someone to commission it.
Yeah.
What's your idea? Right, it's just these really ordinary family watching TV in a front room and chatting sometimes.
Like how do you... Yeah. It must have been incredibly difficult to actually get that made.
There will be a good log line in there, though, that makes... If it's just someone actually... If you sat down and thought about it, or you go, oh, God, right, yeah.
I haven't seen it for a while, so I can't really remember what the sort of needs and wants
ins and outs
of the characters are.
Yeah, me neither.
I think the thing with that is it's just so beautifully observed, isn't it? It's just all the little details. Yes. It's almost more like observational stand-up. Do you know what I mean? In that you're encouraged to laugh at the little recognisably quirky or absurd things in life, but they're just coming out of someone's mouth. It is a bit like stand-up in a way.
See, I was thinking about that as well, about, because Emma asked us to describe our show in a sentence and we couldn't do it. So I was like, all the sort of shows I was looking at for this, I was thinking, what's the logline for that? And a show that I really, really love, probably the sort of first one that I thought, that's exactly my sort of thing, as a sort of young adult, was Spaced.
Oh, I was going to mention
Spaced. Loved Spaced.
I loved that.
God, I missed that off my list.
Oh, it's just so good. But again, I was trying to think, like, what's the log line for that? Would be like 2 strangers pretend to be a couple in order to rent a cheap apartment, which doesn't really sort of describe the show or, like, the sort of genius of how it's put together.
It's not a very sparky logline.
Well, nobody say that, but it does.
You can see where the humour would come from.
It's for your imagination then, is it? The logline is to stimulate your imagination to say, I can see where the conflict and humour would come from.
Yeah,
from that.
yeah, because it is an obvious avenue for jokes to come out of it. You know, these people sort of pretending to be together. But I think it's sort of.
It's so funny that log line actually. You could take that log line and chuck it back 20 or 30 years and get a completely different. You get Man About the House or something.
Yeah.
Completely different sitcom.
Yeah.
Again, that's something we need to think about for us, isn't it? About how we deal with it in terms of realism and stuff, and obviously Space had those lovely surreal moments in it, and kind of there's a decision to be made, isn't there? About
was that Edgar Wright
directed it? Yeah.
Did he write it with?
No, it was
Simon
Simon Pegg and Jessica. Is it Jessica Stevenson?
Oh right, Hine
or Jessica Hine, as she might be now.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like what I mean is that there's a good sort of strong premise there, but it doesn't define the series because the series is about the relationships between the characters. You know, so it is important to be able to have that sort of line where you can sell that idea as a concept. But all of these shows that we're discussing are about the relationships between the different characters.
How important is it, do you think, to really love the character? I suppose that even if you hate the characters, you kind of love them.
You've got to love to hate them or love the character. Yeah, you've got to feel something for the character.
Yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it, in a nutshell? Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you like them or hate them or rooting for them or want them to fail. Just indifference doesn't work. That's when you turn stuff off, isn't it? And I've done that with, particularly in films or sort of serial dramas. Yeah. And you watch like the first episode or first 2 episodes, and and you just think, I don't care about any of it. Like, I just don't care. Oh no, Tony might get killed. I don't care. Like, kill him, don't kill him. Yeah. What's the suspense here?
Yeah. You have to either really want them to fail or really want them to succeed, don't you? But there's not really anything in between.
But sometimes there's that lovely thing in it when you're watching something really good and you're like, oh, I'm glad they died. Do you mean like you actually say stuff you wouldn't really say in real life, but you're kind of like, oh, brilliant, they had it going. And you kind of, it brings that stuff out, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you only get that reaction if the characters are right. You're absolutely right. I was watching something the other day, not a comedy, but it was something on Amazon, I think. I can't even remember what it was called now. It was so sort of nondescript.
You're not narrowing it down.
I know, I'm not, am I? It was called something or other. But
right.
But like this whole sort of thing happened, and
I think you've over-explained it now, Dave. If anything, spoiler alert.
Hang on a minute.
Sorry, we've got it now, Dave.
So like this whole sort of build-up, and then these people accidentally killed somebody, and then had to try and do something with the body. And then I realised I didn't care about the person who was dead, and I didn't care about the people who'd killed him. I just didn't. I was like, whatever. And I didn't have any reaction to this sort of horrific scene because they forgot to, save the cat or whatever. They just forgot to give them something to hang that character on.
Well, I definitely won't be watching that then, Dave. Thanks for the heads up.
We'll avoid that one.
Yeah, if only I could remember what it was called, could save you the trouble.
I felt like that about Breaking Bad the first time I tried to watch it. And then I went back to it and actually enjoyed it.
Did you?
I was a little bit like that with The Sopranos as well, I think, the first time I watched it. And I did exactly the same, went back to it and loved it the second time. Maybe it's partly about expectation as well, isn't it? It's like it partly depends on what you've just watched as well.
Extent, yeah.
Sometimes you watch something, you absolutely love it, then you go and watch something else and it's either not quite as good or it's just so different that it's just not quite what you want to watch. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that thing about expectation, though, is really, really important. It's particularly in comedy.
I think we've managed that quite well with ours, though, haven't we?
Yeah, we are keeping the expectation low.
I don't think anyone's expecting anything.
No, but what I mean is...
anyone's actually expecting us to finish it.
What I mean is, like, with most stuff, you go in and you watch it, and you are waiting to feel something, but you're not being it's not being prescribed to you what you have to feel. Whereas with a comedy, if it's called a comedy, right from the outset, they are expecting you to laugh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going into this thinking, right, this is going to make me laugh. And it adds a sort of extra pressure to it. And then if it doesn't make you laugh, then
which I think is the reason why it's very important that we call this a drama.
Oh, we've now ditched the word comedy. So we've gone from sitcom to comedy drama to drama. Next week's discussion is going to be about drama. And go, well, I'm not sure we can bring drama to it.
I think tragedy. Let's call
it's just going to be a nondescript series of events. That's all we're going to call it. A nondescript series of events.
There you go.
Documentary. Let's make a documentary.
What if it was like a documentary? Like a fly on the wall, but set in an office. Think about that.
But yeah, so that's another one. So like that groundbreaking thing. It wasn't like the first mockumentary, but it was a sort of a fresh way of doing it when The Office came out. It felt totally sort of fresh. And then, as we sort of mentioned, loads of things copied it. But I think some of them, one of the brilliant things about The Office is that they never broke that mockumentary feeling. There was always a reason for the camera crew to be where they were.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, particularly, I think some of the sort of American mockumentary things, they have like it's multiple camera setups, and the camera crews seem to be with the people in any situation, anywhere, at any time of day or night, like even in the bedroom or, you know what I mean? You just think that doesn't fit with the, if you're going to make it a mockumentary, make it a bloody mockumentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like Parks and Rec, I think we discussed before, I've only watched the first couple of series, which you've told me aren't the best. But they do that all the time. They just have the camera crew following the people just in ridiculous scenarios. And for me, it just sort of takes you out of the whole premise, and then I'm just not interested.
Yeah, it almost seems like sometimes the mockumentary thing is just is literally just there so someone can throw a glance to the camera, a la David Brent.
Yeah. But also, it's there to get something commissioned sometimes as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if that's like the sort of fashion of the day, you can imagine like someone going in and pitching something and an exec going, "Yeah, I like it, but it's got to be a mockumentary because that's what everything is now."
Yeah, what we need, we just need to be in the right time, the right zeitgeist, so people are going,
"Yeah,
look, lads, unless you've got something that involves a table card game, we don't want to hear it." And we go, "Well,
do you know what I was thinking though? I was thinking about our sitcom, and I was thinking,
it's not a
sitcom, comedy drama. Is there a way of like putting a spin on the sort of mockumentary thing?" And I was thinking, could it be like, this is a while ago I was thinking this, I sort of dropped it, but could there be an interesting situation where you have a group of people who know they're being filmed for a YouTube channel, like a poker school YouTube channel? So there are cameras set up, they all know the cameras are there, and they're sort of responding, but there are these little dramas going on, and there's like a pushing the mockumentary on a little bit into the sort of world of TikTok and YouTube.
The YouTube generation, that's an interesting thought, that, John. You can formally submit that thought at our next writing meeting.
Yeah. See, I think to avoid possibly missing the zeitgeist in terms of style, I think we should be very vague about the style.
We should pick one, be true to ourselves with the style that we believe in.
Yeah.
Even if it's weird and wonderful, if it works and it's what we think, then that's what we stick to.
I like vague. Vague is...
No, we need to be specific.
Yeah, because it will inform everything, won't it? It'll inform the characters and the story and everything.
Yeah, but like when we pitch it, I think we should just say, so the style of this is whatever style you think it should be.
What's your favourite style, by the way? What is your favourite style?
Before we pitch this.
If you were going to greenlight something, what style would it be?
Thanks for listening to the Failing Writers podcast. Without people like you, it would be, it'd be just the same really, but with one less person listening. But thanks anyway.
Hey, do you want to hear about this book that I've been reading? I haven't read very much of it, but the book is called Writing Television Sitcoms, and it's by Evan S. Smith.
Yes, I'd like to hear about writing sitcoms.
Yeah, go on then.
Well, he talks a lot about premise-driven comedy, which I assume is just what his term is for sitcom.
Yeah.
But he has this list. He's got like a handy list of predicaments to draw on should you need them.
Okay.
To put your characters into situations that will stir up.
Should we guess these? Is these like actual situations?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But what's interesting is we've been kicking around a few story ideas, and then I read this, and it's quite odd how many of them kind of coincide with the things that we've been talking about.
How unoriginal our thoughts are.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But it is, to be fair, it's one of those lists it's really useful, but it's also a bit, I was going to say depressing. It's not really depressing, but it makes you realise how many, stories are basically the same.
How many times you've seen it.
There's like a limited number of possibilities.
Yeah.
And it's just about how you piece them together and give them a new
But
spin.
the good news is, when your main character is going out for a meal and has to have a concurrent meal with another person in a restaurant next door, that is always hilarious.
Yeah.
Whether they have to climb
Never
out the
fails.
toilet window and then they catch the trousers and they have to come with an excuse for that, and they're getting a bit full and they can't eat too.
Well, I think
then they have to hide the food under
we've got both of them in here. In fact, we've got probably, all of those ideas are in here.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll read it out to you. They're all quite
go on.
obviously quite, they're very generically written, but you'll get the gist. So the first one is The Big Lie. In a moment of weakness, a key character tells a little porky and then has to try and contain the lie. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a classic. That's
in everything. Everything.
in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's close cousin, The Big Secret, which is not unlike The Big Lie, but this time it's the truth that needs protecting from coming out.
Yeah.
But obviously, there are people who are just desperate to let the cat out of the bag.
Let it out.
Then
Bloody surprise birthdays. I'm sick of programmes, not just sitcoms, that have got surprise birthday parties in, right? I've never had one, and I've never been to one. Maybe that just says more about the people that I know or their opinion of me, but it just I just don't think it happens.
I don't think I have, Dave, but that's
Exactly,
I think
yeah.
it's so ubiquitous in stuff, in popular culture, that if I had not thought about it, I would say, I've probably been to one.
I've seen loads on TV.
Never
yeah.
happened.
I don't think I have.
Just doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
it's true.
Who has surprise birthday parties apart from characters in bloody sitcoms?
I mean, the idea of
Anyway.
a surprise party, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to do to somebody.
It's such an easy setup, though, isn't it, for comedy or drama?
Yeah.
But really nasty thing to do to someone. So what are we on? Number 3.
But again, also, it's the least surprising day to have a party, isn't it? Like, of all the days that I would be, I'd be surprised if there was a party today. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a party on my birthday.
I don't know now, John, whether
anyway.
we should do a surprise party for Dave at some point because he really won't be expecting it.
Yeah.
Or not because he seems to hate them. Or is that a reason to do it as well? It's difficult to say, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. You're around in circles. Anyway,
It'd
John.
be better if you told someone you were going to do a surprise party.
And the
for them,
surprise was there wasn't a party.
Didn't do it.
but didn't tell them when. It's like a threat, like a party threat. Could happen at
You'd
any
have
time.
to always be in your
Yeah.
party frock.
It's probably what happened to Boris Johnson. Poor
You
lad.
spend the whole year
Yeah.
in your nice
Or
trousers.
it could just be while you're having a bath.
Yeah.
Everyone just piles in. Happy birthday!
Oh, God.
Number 3, the misunderstanding.
The comedy
yeah,
misunderstanding.
character misinterprets something.
That can
comedy
be really
arises.
annoying, that, though, when it's done clumsily.
Yeah.
One of those moments, and it happens in drama as well as comedy, where they go, "Oh, no, Quentin, I've got to tell you something. You can't tell me. I've got to go. No, but I need to tell you. You can't. I've got to go right now. But it's really important. It'll change this entire starch if I tell you this now. We don't need the other 6 episodes because you'll just be able to. I've got to go. Oh, God, he's going. Oh, he's gone. Why didn't I just shout out the thing?
Instead
Why
of
didn't I just tell him?
shouting that I had something to shout, I should have just shouted it.
I just actually shouted the thing. That is one of the most frustrating devices. Oh,
Yeah, it requires
that usually gets me to turn off.
Yeah, it requires
regardless of what's
huge
happening.
suspension of disbelief, doesn't it? I think anything that
Yeah.
requires too much of that is always going to be a bit of a turn off,
Yeah.
isn't it?
But it can be done well, so we'll allow that. We'll leave it on the list.
Occasionally, if done well.
Tom, do you remember when I think I mentioned this to you? I had an idea about a sketch, and it was all based on a misunderstanding, and I got quite a long way with it. And then I mentioned it to you, and you quite rightly said, "That's really crap, Dave. Don't do that." And it was all about a guy saying that he was going to take a girl to a Michelin restaurant, but he was actually taking her to a place called the Michelin.
I may have said that's crap, yeah.
I think you.
Oh, dear.
And for a while I thought, that's a brilliant idea. What a brilliant misunderstanding that would be. Tom just went, no. don't
Run
do
by
that."
the Mitchell brothers,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly, yeah. Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell's in. Going to the Michelin restaurant. Anyway.
I like
Carry on.
it. Might be better as a one-liner. But,
I think so.
Yeah.
Not the 10-minute sketch that I had planned.
Right, that should be
Not
that
the
should be
sitcom.
that just has to go in our comedy drama somewhere. We'll
Yeah, that's
we'll
nice.
beat that into shape and use it as a one-liner.
Next one is A Rock and a Hard Place. It's a very difficult decision, moral dilemma. Just trying to sometimes trying to choose between the least worst thing or trying to choose between two very good things.
Like voting.
Yeah. Exactly.
Satire.
The Surefire Scheme and, Only Fools and Horses was practically predicated on this one. Characters try and get rich quick.
Yeah.
And where are we? Rock the Boat. A new character arrives that stirs everything up. Not necessarily a new character, but just the fact that the status quo is threatened in some way.
Yeah.
And sometimes the status quo actually looks better, but the joke is that the characters prefer the flawed lives that they had before. Common theme.
Do you know, it's interesting going through these, though, how I thought when you went through these that examples would just spring out of thousands and thousands of hours of sitcoms that we've watched.
It's
actually quite difficult putting the...
I think it's probably because there's so many, isn't there? There must be one of these in every series. Yeah.
I think that's it. There are so many in every episode. The Time Bomb, a race against time. Parents go away, teenagers have to clear up the mess before they return type stuff. That kind of thing. Yeah. Trapped in a space, like stuck in a lift or something. And also its counter, Trapped Outside Naked. It's your classic pressure cooker situation. Stick some characters in a really stressful situation and watch them boil. Made me think of your sitcom, Dave. I think the episode that made me laugh the most was just the
running around the town naked.
It's always
always funny.
Always a winner.
Yeah. It's being the trapped one. There's an episode. I think it was an episode of Bottom where they're trapped at the top of a fairground ride, and it's literally just those two sat next to each other for the whole episode.
Of course, with some sitcoms, the trapped episode was a way of saving money, wasn't it? So they could spend more money on a location episode.
Yeah, on the next, on your big finale.
Yeah.
What's the Scottish sitcom where they're stuck in a lift? It's a brilliant episode. Oh, what's it called? Still Game. And one of them is just desperate for a piss, like all the way through the episode, and it just gets to the point where it's like just painful to watch.
Yeah.
And then he says, "I'm just going to do half a piss." And they say, "You can't do half a pish." I'll just do half a pish, just in the corner. It's a beautiful thing. Next one, sex. Aggressive, romantic, or lust-driven pursuits. Either the characters want it, but they can't find the opportunity, or they really don't want it, but they're being pursued relentlessly by someone.
Carry-on films.
To turn down.
Men Behaving Badly,
films,
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Entirety of Men Behaving Badly.
They're desperately not wanting to, but being pursued is very much a carry-on.
That's reminded me of a good one that I've forgotten about. That was very sort of 90s. Game On.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the good.
Remember that with the agoraphobic fella?
And then they changed the actor, didn't they? After like the first series or something like that.
Yeah, they did.
Was it Ben Chapman or something?
Ben Chapman. He went off to Hollywood, and then Neil Stuke did it, didn't he, for the second and third series? Yeah. I always watched that. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was very watchable.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Actually, it wasn't like earth-shattering or anything, but it was like oh, I'll watch that. Yeah.
Do you want to have a guess at the last one?
Is it having two meals in a restaurant?
Is it where people have to guess something? Which is really unguessable. Oh.
No, it's a bit of a curveball. This one, it's The Dead Body.
Yeah,
particularly hilarious. It's Weekend at Bernie's.
Fawlty Towers.
It's Fawlty Towers.
That was a great episode.
Yeah. You can't beat a corpse. You have to hide for big laughs.
There we go.
Yeah, so there you go.
We've got material there, haven't we?
Quite good, actually. That's better than I thought it would be, John. That
I think we've.
Thanks, man.
Because they're not overly specific.
No, they're very vague, but they.
I think that's probably why you can't necessarily think, apart from the obvious ones like a dead body. Some of the more underlying ones don't necessarily jump out as going, "Oh yeah, they did that in such and such."
Yeah.
Because they are a little bit deeper seated under the. That's like the premise. Well, that's not the reason why anything works. It's all the character reactions and everything built around it. It's just that's very low down.
You can see how they all cause the comedy, and I suppose
that's
So anyway, when our sitcom is finally made, comedy drama is finally made. That's what you'll be looking out for.
Yeah, those are the episodes.
Those are the episodes.
Well, this is the other thing. This is the other thing that I think we needed to discuss, right? But in this whole sitcom comedy drama thingy.
Oh God, we're calling it a thingy now, are we? That's how far we've gone.
It's about whether it has an end, because I think that's that's an important question, particularly when it comes to the pitch, isn't it? Is there gonna? Because I suppose we're saying a sitcom is something where it's the same situation, it just happened, and by the end of each episode it goes back to where it starts. A comedy drama is something where there's like an ongoing storyline where stuff actually changes.
Yeah.
But does it have an end? Is it like a sort of limited series, or are we trying to do something that could potentially, again, we're getting into Jonathan Ross country here, but it could potentially be recommissioned for season after season?
The skill.
The good ones do both, don't they?
Skill is you got to end it, because it's so bloody annoying when series don't end. There's nothing more irritating.
You've got to draw it to an end, but then show where the path continues.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? You've got to leave some threads ready. So each season can have its own story arc, but there's got to be enough stuff going on to tease it for the.
And a lot of that comes down to the strength of the characters, the likability or otherwise of the characters.
Yeah.
That you want to see where their journey takes. What's the rest of their life? What's the next step?
Yeah.
Rather than just the funnies.
Because I was thinking about that in terms of like the what you mentioned the other day, John, about your sort of idea for twisting it into a comedy drama, with it focusing on this guy and his sort of possible search for a parent, that sort of thing. I think we have to try and that's a really good idea, but if we have to make that part somehow not a sort of bookended
not the
thing.
only story.
Yeah.
I think that's.
But it's something that happens that finishes that bit off.
Yeah.
But there's still a story to be told afterwards.
Yeah. But again, I think if you've got your little group of characters right, then you could just carry on, can't you? You can carry on. Someone else has a major crisis, and
absolutely, absolutely.
You have to work out how we're all going to help them get through their particular thing.
But that's goes back to the start when I was talking about it can't just be. I don't think it can just be about one person. There's got to be lots of different stories about different people. So that you've got
but you
something
can kind of ride on one person for the series.
Yeah, for that, yes.
And then,
yeah.
Well, that's lovely. We've gone full circle. That's the end of the podcast then. See you next week.
I think that probably does just about wrap it up for this week then, folks, doesn't it?
I think it does. I don't think anyone's going to want to listen to any more.
No.
Do you know what they're going to think? They're going to think, I'm not listening to this bag of crap again. This is ridiculous. Just three people that don't know anything waffling on about stuff. And I'd say, whoa. That was just this week. Next week, we've got an interview with Will Storr, who really does know his stuff.
That's true.
And we have to talk to him about how much he knows his stuff.
There's some stuff that he was talking about in this interview that I just haven't been able to stop thinking about. Just some really insightful things.
Yeah, absolutely. So he wrote The Science of Storytelling, amongst a few other books as well, but that's the one John made us read, so we got him on. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Really, I think John says at some point, or said after, about how it's so much. It's kind of all about storytelling, but then you realise because storytelling is so human, that's the book ends up being about human nature. It's really deep, isn't it? It's really a psychological insight to human nature.
It really is.
It's fascinating.
I think
stuff.
it's the
really
most interested I've been in psychology ever, having read that book. It's really fascinating. So I really look forward to that.
Do look forward to it because it is in the future currently. So
That's a
very good direction to look.
Yeah.
So until then,
see you next time.
See you all again soon.
Goodbye.
Actually, another sort of roundabout thing. Bob Monkhouse. Remember, he used to do those comedy connection things. Do you remember those?
Vaguely.
Oh, it was part of his show because he had all these sort of gags written down about anything.
You'd get two points that seem completely unconnected.
Yeah,
he'd
he'd
do
take
a run of jokes to get from one place to another.
Yes.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That is quite impressive.
Amazing.
Good old Bob.
So are you offering to do that now, Dave?
You're going to do it then, Dave? So,
No.
Pineapple and cystitis.
Pineapples come in tins. That's it. That's all I've got.
Bloody good attempt, that, Dave. Well done. I'm proud of you. You got a lot further than I thought you would. Very good. And it was, can I say, it was very, very funny as well. Really, well done. Well done.
I might not have Bob Monkhouse's repertoire, but...
No, well, very much on par,
Yeah.
I would say. That was excellent. It really was. Lovely. Oh, God. good. Very good.
Hello.
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?